Did you and Virgil get along in real life? So, Ted, I included this one because you've spoken nicely about Virgil here on the podcast for the most part. But I've heard things over the years that maybe you guys didn't quite always get along. What can you tell us about your personal relationship with him?
No, we never had any problems. Virgil, and his real name, I guess, is Mike,
Mm-hmm.
and I won't say his last name, but anyway, I know that he was from Pittsburgh, and he was a real nice guy, and I think he had tried some wrestling. I guess the nicest way to say it is like, the lights are on, but sometimes you're not sure anybody's home.
Mm.
He's just not the brightest guy, but that, I mean, so what? He did what he was hired to do. And I mean, that was, and publicly, basically that's what Vince said. He said, like we want to make the public believe as much as possible that Ted is this rich guy. And so you go with him, in the airports, you open doors, get the bags, all that stuff, that you would normally do if you were serving somebody. Now, and we did that, but and even that wore off after a while. But again, I never had any issues with Mike. Seemingly a good guy. I mean, he, back then he took real good care of himself. I mean, stayed in tremendous shape, but just not a real sharp guy, just not, if he'd have had, they did one little thing with me and him where I ended up having to wrestle him or something. And, but it didn't go anywhere because he just doesn't have it,
Right. And everybody can.
He had tremendous look, I mean, that's what that with him, with them big guns and his arms folded, he looked very menacing, but he just, again, I like the guy. And I told him that I just saw him at a signing recently. And he doesn't look good. I don't know. I don't know what he has, and he never really talks about it.
Mm-hmm.
But for a while, I wasn't seen with him, or promoters would ask, because I started hearing stories that I didn't like. Stories about him being that, like an autograph signing, and a little kid comes up to his table or whatever, and Virgil asks him, he asks the kid, "Hey kid, you want an autograph picture?" And the kid goes, "Yeah." So he signs the autograph, and then he says, $20.
Mm.
And the kid goes, you asked me if I wanted one. And I said, yes. He says, well, it's not free. $20. Go get your daddy.
Oh, wow.
And, and so and then I'd hear another story and another story. And what I think is, it was just, I think a guy who had nothing else to do, no other source of income, and was trying to survive.
Yes.
And I know that the whole time we were together, it was my understanding that now he lived at home with his mom. And then, but I apparently now that he's in poor health and everything, I mean, my heart kind of goes out to the guy, who knows, maybe sometimes drastic things have to happen in a person's life for them to wake up, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And, so I have, there's a couple of guys that promote signings and stuff. I said, listen, anytime, I said, I'm going to be looking for bookings that are within striking distance of Pittsburgh. And I got this guy's number that takes care of him. And I said, I will call you. And if we can get Virgil on the show with me, would you be willing to bring him? He said, definitely. That's all I can think to do to try to help him, is to include him on some of the bookings that I have that are, within reasonable distance of Pittsburgh.
Man, that's awesome, Ted. And by the way, Chillicothe, Ohio. I don't know what part of Ohio that Chillicothe's in, but maybe it's close enough to Pittsburgh that you guys can make that one work.
Yeah.
I think that's later this month. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
I think so.
He might already be booked on it for all I know. But in any case, that's awesome that you're willing to help him out like that.
Mike was a good guy. He just, he never got in trouble, and never, if he'd have, it's kind of like if he'd had any real wrestling talent, we could have, gosh, the things I could have done with him. I mean, it was like, here's this guy that's subservient to me for like years, right? And then he finally gets tired of taking my shit. It could have been great, but unfortunately, Mike he's just not equipped.